It's official. I am leaving my mum's. The van is done, it is packed, and adventure awaits. Holy crap. It's honestly felt like I've been stationary for years and years and years. It's been a long wait, but here we go. Time to hit the road. So first things first, I'm going to see my brother and an old friend on the way out. Then I'm going to go foraging with Craig, who I met a year or two ago. I'm going to go hunting razor clams and probably sea kale, see what else we can find. So in this video I should be showing you how to forage razor clams. So I'll catch you guys in a minute. So the excitement didn't last very long. I've broken down. Ideal. I got what, 12 miles from home, maybe, if that. So I'm sat waiting on a recovery vehicle. Nightmare. Absolute nightmare, but sometimes we have to have these tests to get the rewards, don't we? So let's see what they have to say anyway. So as I was driving, I thought I could smell WD-40, so my first instinct was that maybe my can of WD-40 had burst or something. But I soon realised it was actually the smell of diesel and that there was fumes getting into the cab. Thinking it was maybe a lorry that had accelerated in front of me or something and just left a load of fumes behind and it had got into the cab through the vents, I put the windows down and turned the fans up to try and clear it all out. But this actually made it worse, which got me a little bit concerned. At that point I kind of knew it was something to do with the van and not someone else's vehicle. So I pulled over to have a look. First instinct was to check cables and see if I could find any fire, because I wasn't 100% sure that the smell was diesel. You know, it could have been melted plastic or something, so I disengaged a few fuses, but it was none of my electrics. It was definitely diesel. I looked under the hood and nothing seemed suspicious and I couldn't see any smoke, so I was a little bit perplexed, so I kind of carried on a bit. But then as I carried on, the cab actually started to fill with grey smoke, which was pretty concerning. So I pulled into a petrol station. Unfortunately the garage was closed because it was a Saturday, but anyway, it gave me the opportunity to ring my mechanic and try and find out what was going on. So over the phone he sort of tried to help me diagnose it, and yeah, basically I recognised that there was diesel coming up from the base of one of the injectors and actually running all the way down the engine and dripping onto the floor under the van, which was obviously not good news whatsoever. So the recovery guy came and he basically confirmed that yeah, there was definitely an issue with the injectors or the seals or whatever. So what exactly has happened to the van? For those that aren't interested in mechanical stuff, I won't bore you. I'll just very quickly discuss what's happened here. So these things here are your injectors. They inject fuel into the top of the engine, which is then ignited by the glow plugs, which are in front of the injectors. Now, if you look here, see that blue liquid? Well, that's diesel. So if you see next to this injector, down in there is hollow. There's actually a little bolt that you can see in the bottom there. That space shouldn't be filled with diesel like it is here. So either the seals that go between the injectors and the cylinder head, which is the big piece of metal that goes on the top of the engine, for lack of better description, either they've gone or the bolts aren't tightening down enough to create a seal, because obviously there's a huge amount of pressure going on because there's combustion happening inside this engine. So the best case scenario, it needs copper seals and new bolts, and then the injectors can come out, go back in, brand new seals, and it won't leak. Worst case scenario, it's cracked cylinder head, which would mean that the £1,200 that I spent having this whole engine stripped and reformatted and rebuilt and all that crap last year will be completely pointless. I really hope that's not the case, because if it is, I don't even know if I have the money to fix it, and it certainly puts a spanner in the works for hitting the road. But I'm going to stay positive and hope it's just the seals. Of course we've got a new king, so we've got a bank holiday, so it's going to take longer to get the parts. So my mechanic can't see it for at least a week, which is a bit of a nightmare. But luckily the engine was still running and I wasn't far from home, so I basically just limped it back to my mum's. I basically just drove with my revs really low, because accelerating hard is obviously going to create more pressure in the engine, and then that's what was spraying the diesel onto the hot engine, and then the fumes were getting into the cab. Safe to say when I got home I felt pretty nauseous and horrendous actually, to be honest, because obviously there was the drive there and the drive back where I was just breathing in fumes. Not ideal at all. Can't imagine it's very good for me. And if you've got me on Instagram, you'll know that the day before a massive tree came down at the end of the garden and I ran down to the tree and stuck my head in it and breathed in all the bacteria and spores that were in the air, which was a fantastic idea, of course. Holy shit, that was loud. It sounded like gunfire going off. Bloody hell. Oh, it stinks of mushroom. Must be spores in there. Shit, it's like ripped the fence up. Look at the girth on the ivy there. My mum came down and we both saw just this cloud going up the field. It looked like just like mist climbing up the hill along the grass. And obviously I'd just had my face in that. So when we got back to the house, we filled a bowl with boiling water and put eucalyptus and sage essential oils and just breathed them in, because at least that was going to kill any bacteria we breathed in. As for the spores, you kind of just have to hope that your body is able to cope with them and cleanse them out. But I've not been coughing since. So yesterday I was really doom and gloom. I literally just lay in bed. I just curled up in a ball and slept lots, and then didn't get out of bed until about half an hour ago, which was like 1:30. So been pretty miserable, but then I kind of just slapped myself in the face and thought, you know what, like, this is my responsibility on how I feel. There is nothing I can do about this engine. I don't have parts, I'm not a mechanic, so it's out of my control. And when something happens in life that is completely out of control, then all you can do is take control of what you do have control over. But I will say this, that sometimes when something crap happens in your life, you have to kind of just accept it. And one of the easiest ways I find to accept something crap happening in your life is you don't know how crap it could have been. So just a quick example, I could have broken down 100 miles from home, which means I would have no use of my mechanic whatsoever. I'd have to go to some garage, could have been a dodgy garage, and they could have just shafted me because they could have told me loads of bullshit about the engine, which my mechanic will know is absolute crap because he's had it completely torn apart inside out. He knows exactly what he's done. So there's a silver lining straight away. Secondly, maybe if I was on a road at a certain time, someone would have pulled out on me, slammed into the side of the van, and it could have been written off, and it could have been the absolute end of all of my adventure ideas, van life, everything. I would have had to go back into full 9-to-5 work. I haven't got the money to build a van from scratch again. So when it seems like the universe is punching you right in the tits, it might actually be saving you from something. So my advice would always be to just try to accept it, no matter how hard it is. Obviously this doesn't apply to all situations. There are horrendous things that can happen in our lives. I'm talking about things that really, if you boil them down, they're just massive hindrances. They're tests, they're hurdles, you know, you put them under those kind of categories. This to me is just another test, and I often think to myself that sometimes we have these tests because it's the universe basically seeing if we're worthy of the rewards. So I'm seeing this as a test that's been thrown at me, and if I can get through it, then I deserve the adventure and all the awesome things that are to come. Long story short, I'm going to keep my chin up, I'm going to keep my head above the water, and I'm going to focus on improving my health. Before leaving, my mental health was in the best place it's been in years. Obviously yesterday it wasn't, because I had to process and handle this whole situation, but I'm kind of looking around the van and recognising how healthy and wonderful he is, and I'm looking at myself and thinking I've not been treating myself very well. I've been treating the van very well, but not myself. This is basically just a really short video to update you all, because I know that I'd arranged to meet a few of you in the next couple of weeks, and that's obviously not going to be happening, unfortunately. So really it's just an update, but I'm gonna keep my chin up and hope for the very best on the engine. And while I'm here, the weather's looking a bit naff, but I'm gonna try and get out there and film another foraging video or do something exciting, maybe some cold water therapy or something. Try and stay productive, and I'm just gonna assume that I'm here for a reason and that I wasn't meant to leave on Saturday. But yeah, keep my chin up, and I'll speak to you all soon. Thanks for watching as always.